Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Crown and today we are going to have some more stories that I hope that you will enjoy. But before we start, it will be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go! First story. Guy gets abusive to staff after bar closing. We call the police and the guy digs a massive hole. Anyway, a few years ago I was working as a hotel receptionist. We were a hotel of about 75 rooms at roughly 150 to 190 capacity, but we just so happened to have the bulk of 2 wedding guests staying with us. Needless to say, we were busy, and seeing as it was just us 2 on, we manned the bar and reception. They were joined. One wedding had a lot of these rich, smarmy, silver spoon and mouse type of people. They weren't all jerks in their parties. Some of them were genuinely nice, interesting people who were behaving politely and well behaved. It was for this reason that we kept the bar open for them. Anyway, as the night starts to wind down, people are going to bed. We shut the bar, and people are fine with this except one. This one smarmy jerk who wanted everyone to know his upper class status, his wealth, what car he drove, and so on. So we tell him that we will not be serving any more alcohol and that the bar is closed. Nope, he did not like that. Demands that it be left open and that he has spent loads of money to demand this. The guy spent £75 on a room and about 30 to 40 pounds on beer. Not earth-shattering amounts, seen as people had spent far more than that. We politely tell him to retire to his room. Nope again. This time he squares up to my friend. At this point I should note that my friend is a licensed doorman and ex-military, so he can handle himself. My friend proceeds to tell Mr. High Society that he will need to return to his room or vacate the hotel. Nope, he pushes my friend. I called the police as we couldn't kick the guy out of the hotel and let him wander around, as the hotel was on a roundabout which was in between 2 busy roads and it would be irresponsible. The guy, knowing he screwed up, just sits there all quiet whilst we wait for the police. The police arrive and arrest the guy for being drunk and disorderly. And here is a juicy part. They put the guy in the back of a police car and talk to myself and my friend. Whilst we were talking, we hear this strange noise over the policeman's shoulder radio. That noise turns into someone screaming to be let out. Yup, scared the crap out of all of us. So we all turn around and Posh Boy is holding the in-car radio, screaming at the top of his voice. Yup, the police weren't impressed. So they cuff him and station the other officer with him. They finish with us and they're about to leave when they find the dirty jerk is laughing his head off at peeing himself on the back seat of the police car. So much win. Because of this guy not wanting to go to bed, he landed himself with an 80-pound drunken disorderly charge, unsolicited use of police comms, criminal damage, and a cost to clean. And to add icing on the cake, when his friends come down the next morning to check out and ask where he is, and if we checked him out already, we tell them all what happened and they laughed so hard. Next story. Meathead screws with the band and screws with the dogs. We screw with his truck. My buddies and I rented a house during/after college. Big place. 6 of us living there with 2 dogs and a fat indoor cat. It was mine, still with me, and still fat. Next door lived a gentleman, who I shall call Meathead. Meathead worked out a lot and was constantly aggressive and rude. We always thought roids, but that's just guessing. 3 of my roommates were in a band and would practice in the garage. Garage was covered in foam and was not that loud. Meathead called the cops twice and was told that we were not doing anything wrong. Later on, we had a huge party at our house. We got permits from the city and had the band play. Meathead called the cops again, and we had to stop everything and sort it out for half an hour. As the cops are leaving, Meathead, who was been watching from the sidewalk, starts yelling, "Search the house for drugs! They are a bunch of crackheads!" We were not. We were stoners. Cops leave, band plays, and the party goes on. A few weeks later, my buddy and I got home one night and found the garage door busted in and the band equipment screwed up, drums slashed and power cords sliced. The speaker covers were dented but undamaged. We figured kicked. We call the cops and report it, and we are all kinda scared of Meathead at this point, so we don't say anything. But the cops know all about us and go over to talk with him. Don't know what happened, but Meathead goes away in cuffs. The police report never mentioned him, and as far as we know, it is still unsolved. The cops wouldn't tell us what was up, just to stay out of his way. The band knows their way around secondhand music, so wires get spliced and replaced, and drums are fixed. Ended up being 200-ish. When we next see Meathead, 4 of us are in the front yard. He says, "How's your band sounding?" Real smug. Until now, we have all gotten together and said we should not push this guy's buttons. But the drummer shoots back with, "Great, how does being cuffed feel?" And Meathead loses it, and he attacks him. We don't make a good show of ourselves. He kicks all of us. But the cops come after he leaves and he is arrested again. We press charges and get a restraining order against him. Now remember the dogs? There were 2 of them. A little dopey mutt and a wiener dog with 3 legs. They were a yippie pair, so they were inside most of the time. Walks and the dog bark and out back twice a day for nature. About a month after the fight, my buddy takes the dogs out back, then brings them both inside and tells me to come outside. I go and there are bits of meat all over, like steak strips. Wrapped in most are chocolate, and we found unknown pills in some. Most of them are towards Meathead's house. Dogs are never let out back again. But the drummer loses it. Both dogs are his. But anything happens and Meathead is going to think it is us. We don't want to test the restraining order that much. We wait 2 months till the other 4 roomies are going out of town for a week. 3 to a wedding back east and 1 on work. The drummer and I made a plan to go up to Napa for 4 days and make a big fuss about asking the other neighbors on the street to watch the place. We rented the hotel room and everything. 2 nights in, we have a buddy who lives in the area staying in the hotel room with his girlfriend and tell him to order some movies. We drove back. Meathead has a truck that he loves. Bricked out 4-wheel drive with chrome and a custom paint job. When we got there around midnight, the truck wasn't there. We eat at Denny's and the truck still isn't there at 1. A plant later and at 2 a.m., the truck is there. We siphon off as much gas as we can and fill it with unleaded. And toothpaste is rubbed on that tailgate art. Drive back to Napa about 6 hours all told and tell our buddy to get some clothes on. We want to get some sleep. When we got back, the truck wasn't in the driveway and we never saw it again. Meathead moved out maybe 6 months later and we never told the others about it until he was gone. And in our group's legends, the amount of mess we did got bigger every time. Next story. Site manager neglected to take care of my property, so I cost the property management company over $500,000. Some background. I, 35 male, own a 72 units apartment complex. When I bought it, it was in a good shape, and I spent several million getting all apartments renovated. The rent wasn't increased for any of the tenants, and I made sure that it never went up by more than $50 a year for lease renewals. Baked into the leases. Shortly after the renovations were completed, I started the search for a property management company and ultimately settled on one that seemed well aligned with wanting to put the tenants first As we were doing the contracts, I had my real estate friend also look at them. Between him and my lawyer, they recommended having a clause added in there. The short of it is, if there are any legal actions brought up against me for the apartment complex due to neglect of the property management staff, the property management will be responsible for all those costs and any legal fees incurred. This wasn't added in secret, and the legal team from the property management company agreed, and everything was finalized. They took over the management of the complex a month later. I was fairly hands-off and only visited the site every 3 to 4 months. Other than that, I'd have the monthly updates sent to me by the manager on site. A few months ago, I found out that a couple of the apartments had been left in severe shambles after the tenants moved out, and the cleaning crew we had took care of it. I didn't find out until after the fact that it was not completely accurate because one of the apartments apparently had a bad roach infestation in the storage closet outside the apartment. After the new tenants moved into that apartment, they brought up the issue to the site manager. In the monthly reporting, the site manager claimed that the maintenance staff tried to address it with traps and bug bombs. I did not think too much of it and left it at that. Next month, the same thing. And the third month after receiving the monthly report, I called the site manager stating there is a reoccurring issue, and I wanted it taken care of professionally at that point. The month's rent was waived for the tenants in that apartment, and they were put up at a hotel for a week while the issue was to be addressed. Once they returned to their apartment is when the issue started. The site manager, either by mistake or by negligence, did not communicate with the exterminators the extent or the location of the infestation. Instead of the storage closet, the apartment was fumigated, and after that, the roaches made their way into other apartments in the same building, and the nearest building as well. And the problem got so much worse. The same option was given to all the tenants in that building, waiving the month's rent and putting them up in a hotel for a week while the issue is addressed. They all took that offer up. However, one of the tenants decided to take legal action. While I wasn't happy about it, I understood where they were coming from, having their lives disturbed by something that should have been addressed properly to start. As we were in the midst of negotiating with them during mediations, my lawyer reminded me of the clause with a property management company and suggested we give them what they want. And that is where I started my nuclear revenge. I had the rest of the tenants from the 2 impacted buildings be told anonymously that one of the tenants had filed a lawsuit for the damage and they should do the same by getting in on it. Through the mediation, I pretended to be outraged at the whole matter. The negotiation started at 3 months of free rent, but ultimately we all settled on 1 year of free rent for all those tenants. Overall, that came out to 16 apartments, with rent averaging from $1,700 monthly that the property management had to pay for due to the negligence of the site manager, equaling roughly $325,000 in just the lost rent they had to pay for. And the cherry on top, due to the breach in service for property maintenance, they also had to provide free service for up to 6 months while I seek out a new property management company, costing them an additional $146,000, and still pay for the legal fees on top of all of that. Next story. Officer wants teens to drive while intoxicated? Okay, this is from a decade ago, but just found this sub and thought I would share. I was throwing a big bonfire out in the fields, a dirt lot near some man-made aqueducts. It was this dirt peninsula in the middle of a huge sump, so zero fire hazard. All of this was back when I was 19 or 20. We did this all the time, because it was a safe place for us to come and have fun. Nobody around but my friend and his family who owned all the land. This part wasn't fenced in, but neighbors were about half a mile or more away. knew his family forever, and knew this is where we came to have fun and avoid noise complaints. We did these every weekend over a couple of summers. One day we get some jerks from the local sheriff's department that come and break up the party. There are probably about 30 to 40 of us or so. Beer, kegs, ice chests, you name it. Everywhere. We always cleaned up because this was our communal place in my friend's property. They put on the whole dog and pony show and tell us we need to go home. My friend and I approached them and he said, "Excuse me, officer, but I'm home. This is my property and these are my guests. This is private property and you are trespassing." And the officer says, "We were legally obligated to enter your property when we observed underage drinking." My friend says, "Our property ends half a mile that way. You can barely even see the fire from that far, let alone how old anyone is." The cop starts getting a real complex. "Everyone needs to leave here immediately, or I'm going to start arresting people." Cue panicked drunk teens. My friends start scattering and heading for their cars along the side of the road, opposite the police cars that are parked on the edge of the sump. I told the officers, "Sir, most of us have been drinking, a lot. We had arranged rides from a couple people, so please give us time to get everyone home." Then he yells, "Any car still here in 5 minutes gets towed, and the owner is going away in cuffs." So this douchebag sends everyone back out into the wild. I was riding with my friend who had a Jeep with a tow cable. The cops head back to their 2 squad cars to try and follow everyone as they are leaving, probably to hand down DUIs that they caused. And as my buddy was backing out of the lot, they started screaming and waving at him. He rolled down his window and the main cop was yelling, "We are stuck in the mud. We need you to help get us out." My sober buddy yells back, "Sorry, officer. If I'm not out of here in 2 minutes, my Jeep is getting towed and I'll be arrested." And he sped off. Property owning friend said he stayed up for hours laughing, watching through binoculars the tow truck that showed up get stuck, and they had to call another tow truck to tow the tow to the police cars. True story. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.